In the heart of New York City, what began as a simple conversation turned into an unexpected love story. This emotional American story shows how one ordinary moment in NYC can change two lives forever. The night the city felt the coldest was the night his life changed forever. The wind tore through the streets of New York like it had something to prove, rattling subway grates and chasing loose papers down empty sidewalks. Daniel stood beneath the dim glow of a flickering streetlight in Manhattan, staring at the shattered pieces of the life he thought he understood. He had lost his job that morning, his relationship the week before, and the last bit of hope somewhere in between. The city that once felt like a promise now felt like a verdict. And then, just when he thought the night couldn't get any heavier, a simple conversation began. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that can change a life, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. You never know who might need this reminder. Daniel had moved to New York from a small town in Pennsylvania 5 years earlier. He arrived with 2 suitcases, a borrowed dream, and the stubborn belief that hard work guaranteed success. For a while, it seemed true. He worked long hours at a marketing firm near Times Square, climbing his way up from assistant to project manager. He learned to speak quickly, walk faster, and hide exhaustion behind a confident smile. The city rewarded ambition, but it rarely forgave weakness. When the company downsized unexpectedly, Daniel's name was on the list. Just like that, his security dissolved into a handshake and a cardboard box. Pride kept him from telling anyone how much it hurt. He told his friends it was just a transition. He told his parents he had great opportunities lined up. But the truth was quieter and far more frightening. Weeks passed and the interviews stopped coming. Bills piled up. His girlfriend, exhausted by his silence and distance, walked away with a sadness that felt permanent. The apartment they once filled with laughter became unbearably quiet. On that freezing evening, Daniel wandered without direction. He ended up near a small coffee shop tucked between a bookstore and a laundromat in the Upper West Side. The place was nearly empty, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk like an invitation. He stepped inside mostly to escape the cold, not realizing he was stepping into something much larger. She was sitting alone near the window, an older woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun, wearing a long navy coat and holding a ceramic mug with both hands as if it contained more than coffee. Her eyes were sharp but gentle, the kind that seemed to notice things others overlooked. When Daniel accidentally dropped his gloves near her table, she bent down slowly to pick them up and handed them back with a soft smile. He thanked her, intending to walk away, but she asked if he was all right. It was such a simple question, the kind strangers ask out of politeness, yet something in her tone felt sincere. For reasons he couldn't explain, he didn't answer automatically. He hesitated. That hesitation opened the door. He sat down across from her. What started as a polite exchange turned into something deeper. He found himself admitting that he had lost his job, that he felt lost, that he wasn't sure who he was without the title on his business card. The words surprised him as much as they did her. He hadn't meant to reveal so much, especially to someone he had just met. But the city had been loud for so long, and suddenly there was space to be honest. She listened without interrupting, without offering quick solutions or cliches. When he finished, she told him her name was Margaret. She had lived in New York for over 40 years. She had raised a son there, lost her husband there, built and rebuilt her life more times than she could count. She told him something that settled into his chest like warmth. The city doesn't break you, it reveals you. Margaret shared how she once ran a small art gallery in Soho. When the economy shifted, she lost everything she had built. She described standing in an empty space that used to be filled with paintings and laughter, feeling as though her identity had evaporated. For months, she avoided friends out of embarrassment. She questioned her worth. She believed she had failed. But eventually, she realized that losing the gallery forced her to rediscover parts of herself she had ignored. She began volunteering at community centers, teaching children how to paint. She found purpose, not in prestige, but in connection. Daniel felt something shift as she spoke. He realized he had tied his value entirely to achievement. Without his job, he felt invisible. But listening to Margaret, he began to see that perhaps he was more than his resume. The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. Outside, the winds softened. Inside, something stronger than ambition began to grow. When they finally stood to leave, Margaret did something unexpected. She handed Daniel a small card with an address written in careful handwriting. It was a community arts center in Harlem where she volunteered twice a week. She told him they needed help organizing events and mentoring teenagers who were trying to find their direction. She didn't promise him money or a career breakthrough. She simply invited him to show up. The next morning, Daniel almost didn't go. Pride whispered that volunteering was a step backward. Fear insisted it was a waste of time. But something about the previous night lingered. He put on his coat and took the subway uptown. The arts center was vibrant and chaotic, filled with bright murals and the sound of laughter. Teenagers moved through the halls carrying canvases, notebooks, and instruments. Margaret greeted him as if she had been expecting him all her life. She introduced him to the director, who welcomed him warmly. Within minutes, Daniel found himself helping set up chairs for a poetry reading. At first, he felt out of place. He didn't know how to guide these young people. But as the days turned into weeks, he discovered that his marketing skills could help the center reach more donors and organize better events. He helped them create a small social media campaign. He designed flyers. He mentored a shy 16-year-old boy who loved writing but doubted his talent. Daniel saw his younger self in that boy's uncertainty. Something remarkable began to happen. The more he invested in others, the less consumed he felt by his own loss. The heavy silence in his apartment was replaced by tired satisfaction at the end of each day. He still searched for jobs, but desperation no longer defined him. He was building something meaningful, even if it didn't come with a corporate title. One afternoon, after a successful fundraiser Daniel had helped organize, the director pulled him aside. She had been impressed by his initiative and creativity. A partner organization was looking for someone to manage outreach programs across several community centers in New York. It was a paid position, stable and aligned with his skills. She recommended him. Weeks later, Daniel stood once again under bright city lights, but this time the feeling was different. He had a new jabot rooted in purpose. He wasn't chasing prestige anymore, he was creating impact. The city no longer felt like a verdict. It felt like a canvas. He returned to the small coffee shop to find Margaret, hoping to share the news. She was there, as if the universe had arranged it. When he told her about the job, her eyes filled with quiet pride. She reminded him that it all started with honesty, with the courage to sit down and admit he wasn't okay. Over time, Daniel realized that the most powerful moments in life rarely arrive with dramatic announcements. They begin quietly. A simple question, a shared table, a conversation with a stranger who chooses to listen. Years later, Daniel would mentor others who found themselves standing beneath flickering streetlights, feeling defeated by a city that never sleeps. He would tell them that sometimes losing what you thought defined you is the only way to discover who you truly are. He would tell them about a winter night in New York and the woman who saw beyond his resume. If this story is touching your heart right now, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of the power of kindness. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Comment the word hope below if you believe that even the smallest conversation can change a life. Because sometimes, the miracle isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or headlines. Sometimes, it's just two people sitting across from each other in a quiet coffee shop while the wind howls outside. Sometimes, it's choosing to speak honestly instead of pretending you're fine. Sometimes, it's listening. It started with a simple conversation in New York. But for Daniel, it became the beginning of everything.